Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. To bring in part 8 of What If the Reds and Blues were part of Overwatch. Link down in the description of the fan fiction of this, What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this isn't a scam. Chapter 16, Uprising Revolution. Gibraltar. Sarge began his narration. Well, you see, the Americans had heard of what was occurring in England. So they developed a plan with the French government. The French would strike the east coast of England and the Americans would strike west coast, mainly Liverpool, and we would meet somewhere in the center of London. He explained. As the flashback came back, 7 years ago, Sarge remembered every detail. They came in on the modified dune crawler, now making it so that it was amphibian. They dubbed it the Gators, mainly because of the huge hover fans in the back and its thick metal shell. The front of the hover boat, as it carried two small but powerful tanks. Caboose was next to him, blocking out the sun. Tucker behind Sarge as his blade was on his back and his pistol in his hand. And Simmons right behind the big blue guy, probably for cover. Sarge remembered he looked over the wall on one side to see that there was an entire group of hover boats all riding in the same direction. Each packing the same amount of troops, all prepared for war. Tucker tapped him on the shoulder. So run me through the plan one more time. He asked as the Gator rocked back and forth. The plan is, we charge the beach front, barrage through the barracks, swerve through the server room, and finally hunker in the bunker, Sarge said. As the boat neared the coast, the small fire that was received from the shore was nothing. The Bastion's tanks were missing by miles, and the Null Sector troopers, enforcers, and Bastions themselves were all nothing but taps. The taps kept on coming through, but nothing was stopping the many soldiers. That was until IT arrived. The Titan, designed by Torbjorn Lindholm, originally to help build, now a weapon of mass destruction. Now facing the sea as it readied its large cannons. A long beam pierced the ocean and tore a ship just to the right of Sarge in half. He saw bodies fly through the air and scrap spread out in all directions. Luckily they finally reached the shore, minus one of the 11 hover ships. They finally broke through as they all charged the beach. Thankfully many broken pieces of past assaults provided perfect cover. The four made it to cover as they all got themselves together for a huddle. Well, now I think we should discuss strategy, Simmons said as they ducked bullet and blasted fire. Maybe if the Null Sector people would stop shooting for a moment we could make a run for it, Caboose suggested as the rocket tanks spewed heated balls of scalding metal. So who's gonna ask? Tucker asked sarcastically. Very funny, Tucker, Sarge said as he took a quick peek. Simmons got a good glimpse as he saw the far right flank was available. If we go right we should be able to flank through to the right barracks, he said. Caboose took another peek and saw the front trenches had been built up. If we go straight we'll be in the trenches and be able to go through to either one of the barracks, but we'll take a little bit of fire, Caboose said. Tucker got another glance. Well, if we're fast and use the best of cover, we can take the left side bunker instantly, Tucker said. Sarge stroked his chin and thought of the options that were presented to them. All sounded incredible to him, but which one should they take? Divide and conquer, gentlemen. Caboose, you charge through the middle of the gap. Tucker, you and Simmons go right and stay safe. Me, I'll take the left flank, Sarge said as Simmons finished placing down the shield generator to give them some extra protection. Charge, Sarge shouted as he drove his motorcycle through the front lines and zipped past bullets and blasts that were just barely dodging him. Caboose ran straight through as he blocked all the damage by his shield, the blast absorbing onto the shield of the blue screen he had. Caboose held his arm forward as he held his ground. Tucker and Simmons were hardly seen as the two large nuts were charging straight forward. That kept the heat off of them, thankfully. The right side had a large cliff that only Tucker was able to scale, seeing as how he could literally cling onto the wall and run straight upwards. So Simmons was left retreating to the trenches and regrouping with Caboose, who had already managed to break through the walls in the middle of the trenches. Simmons used his laser rifle to keep Caboose healed and shielded as Caboose charged to the left to regroup with Sarge. Sarge saw there was a ladder leading directly under the barracks, so he climbed, keeping himself hidden as well. The Null Sector troopers all laid fire at the beach as some split off to enter into the middle where Simmons and Caboose were. As they peeled off from the barracks, Sarge leapt up and fired more his boomstick, blowing the first trooper down. The rest just noticed him as Sarge pumped his gun and walked closer to them. One null sector trooper attempted to swing at Sarge but was blocked by his shotgun's barrel. Sarge then tackled the bot and put the barrel to the visual receptor and fired. Sarge saw Caboose enter the room as he entered carrying a group of null sector troopers all holding onto him. Caboose smashed his back against the wall hoping to get a few off. He was able to crush two as the last one was now in Caboose's grip at the moment. Caboose stretched his arms apart as he tore the robot in two. Sarge smiled and prepared to defend their position as their other troops continued to siege the beach. The shorter older man looked up at the giant. "So how's the other barracks coming?" Sarge asked as he readied the jammer that explodes robotic signals. "I don't know. Simmons and Tucker went there right now," Caboose said. Sarge nodded. "All right, we'll take this bunker and then," Sarge suggested as Simmons and Tucker came back their way, running. "Sarge, we got trouble," Simmons said as he pointed to the trench. "Trouble? I call it sport," Sarge said as he walked towards the sport. The sport was in fact an Eradicator, a larger powerful version of the trooper. Armed with a larger cannon, larger size and a shield that protected it from major big threats, from the front. But they had one weakness. Scatter. Sarge ordered as Tucker slid under it, Simmons went left, Caboose stayed put and Sarge right. The Eradicator fired 3-shot bursts at Sarge, he of course took the brute force of it. Simmons struck its back a few times with his laser rifle, completely destroying its shield. Tucker stuck his sword through the machine's right leg keeping it busted and pinned. Caboose came in with the finishing blow as he charged the Eradicator, tackled the machine and bashed the metal skull against the stone and metal floor of the barrack wall. Sarge and the others regrouped inside the barracks just to catch their quick breath for a moment. More soldiers flooded in as the barracks and the beach were finally theirs. However, the Titan outside was still firing in the distance, getting closer to destroying the battleships. Now they needed to push forward. Sarge and the men pushed through what looked to have been a small tunnel that had once blocked their path, but was busted open by a huge explosive force. Now they needed to destroy a walled-off server room. This is where the real question was asked. Plan? Sarge asked. The front ways in are blocked off by 2 brick walls, not strong, a simple couple of melee hits will do the trick, Tucker said. Simmons looked up top. There's also the top way, but who knows what could be waiting for us, Simmons suggested. Sarge's plan to divide and conquer were normally accepted, but not this time. Now they needed another game plan. Caboose were going up the middle, shield us and everyone else get ready to blast them, he said as Caboose put his shield up and the group made it to the wall. The top floor blasted the shield as the bottom floor remained unsuspecting of what was to come. Tucker and Sarge took turns beating the brick wall as Caboose raised his shield and Simmons kept firing his laser rifle, giving cover fire. The wall was nearly shattered as Tucker got his ultimate ready for use. Caboose burst through the wall as Tucker grinned, blinding every one of those troopers, Eradicators and the Bastion. Sarge charged forward to the Bastion, fired his right leg joint, then dismantled the bot's gun arm. Finally Sarge put his barrel to the null sector Bastion brain center, fired again as bits exploded everywhere. The rest were easy work as Simmons and Sarge regrouped at the back entrance to make sure no one else would come in. The other troops came in with explosives as Tucker and Caboose formed with the tanks to push to the final objective. After about a minute of fuses being charged and plastic explosives being stuck to mainframes, everyone cleared out as they were ready to go. Sarge held the detonator. "Stand clear everyone," he barked as the explosion destroyed all the equipment running their targeting systems. Finally the last part of the shore was about to be taken as the human soldiers charged forward to the 2 anti-sea and air attack rail guns. This was the hunker in the bunker, because there was no way in or out of the guns. Luckily they brought their very own skeleton key. However, Bastions rained machine gun fire onto the soldiers running up. So it was up to the tanks to punch the holes in the guns, which they did as the concrete caved in and opened their doors. Caboose charged forward, making a shield wall that made a wall for the soldiers, including Sarge, Tucker, and Simmons. They all flooded into the building as their explosives were placed. Given the size and the number of explosives, not many needed to be placed. Tucker was the last one as his bootstrap was caught on a piece of metal. He tugged on his pant leg as he saw the timers on the bombs tick down. He pulled furiously as the clock went from 15 seconds down, Finally Tucker freed his pant leg and made it out of the doorway as the explosion set off. If he had gotten out a second later he would have been engulfed in flames. If he ran out a second earlier he wouldn't be harmed at all. But due to his timing he was blasted from the door and landed in a trench made from the fire the battleships and bombing attempts done. His vitals were low as Sarge Simmons and Caboose rushed to his aid. Caboose picked Tucker up with one hand as they ran into cover. Caboose dropped Tucker behind a wall as Sarge rushed to his aid. Sarge looked at Simmons and Caboose and realized they were the last two to complete the mission. "Listen up, you two. I have to stay with Tucker. Simmons, you take my bag and toss it inside," Sarge demanded, handing him his explosive satchel. "Caboose, I need you to cover Simmons," Sarge said as he handed Caboose a light machine gun. Simmons and Caboose shared a look of reassurance between each other as Caboose jumped in the middle and blocked all the bullets for the upcoming troops. Simmons crouched behind Caboose as he opened his drone deployment pod. Instantly his 12 drones came out and scrambled through the air, some healing troops, others attacking the null sector. While the scramble went on, Caboose activated his ultimate and went to town leading the soldiers, forcing null sector to back up. Simmons went inside the final rail cannon and placed all the explosives inside. It takes a normal person 1 full minute to arm the bomb he had, it takes Simmons 15 seconds. Caboose was becoming too hurt to continue and the last of Simmons's drone was shot down as he ran towards the trenches as Simmons ran outside. Tucker had finally got up and Sarge and Simmons went back to the trenches. Caboose had to sprint into a wall to make it to the cover in time. Simmons pulled up the antenna, turned a dial on his machine, took a breath and finally pressed the giant red button on his remote. The final gun bunker blasted as the rest of the troopers, bastions, eradicators, and OR-14s were caught in the explosion. Sarge pulled the radio off of Tucker's back and went on the phone. "Thunder Queen 479R, railguns are down, I repeat railguns are down. Do you copy? Over." Sarge asked the radio as the rest of the soldiers went forward to clear out the rest of the bots. Sarge waited for the static to reply. "Roger that, Red Leader, beginning assault on the Destroyer of Worlds, over." The feminine pilot replied. Soon the sky roared with the supersonic jets that lasered the torso of the Titan. High-speed bullets burned through the thick armor plating that was its body. Back again the jets returned blasting through the thinner layer of armor just covering the inside with its rockets. And the final kill was the return hit with the drill bit missiles that penetrates the armor and explodes from the inside. When those babies lit up from within, the fireworks were amazing as the metal giant was slain by these sonic dragons. Sarge received the radio feedback, "Thunder Queen 479R to Red Leader, come in Red Leader." He heard the pilot ask. Sarge clicked the button on the side, "This is Red Leader, confirmed kill, Destroyer of Worlds is no more, over." Sarge said. The pilot checked again, "Be advised we are heading back to base to regroup and reload, we will continue to assist by 1100 hours tomorrow." "Over," she said. Sarge rested his back against the wall, "Copy that. See you on the horizon by tomorrow morning." Sarge continued until Tucker tapped him on the shoulder. "Can I talk to her?" Tucker asked. Sarge shrugged, "Be advised, Tucker will now continue to be with you, over." Sarge said as he handed the phone to Tucker before hearing a giggle from the other side of that phone. Sarge pulled out a cigar from his pocket, cut the tip off, and set one end on fire. Present day. Sarge puffed a different cigar as his tale unfolded for the two older gentlemen and Soldier 76 and Winston as they entered the room. He remembered the hard uphill battle they fought perfectly. That explains why resistance was short. But what I don't understand is why you gentlemen are connected to an Alpha AI. Winston said. Alpha? Never heard of it. Besides, don't you got Athena? Sarge asked. Winston raised his glasses. True, but she's not as advanced as this one. But you've never heard of it? Winston asked again. Nope, not ringing any bells. Sarge said, reinforcing his answer. Winston scratched his head. What about freelancer agents? Winston asked. Sarge coughed on his cigar before speaking any further. Listen, I know about them, but I'm not the one who should tell you who they are. But if you want to know, Sarge said, leaning closer, call up this number, but don't let Tucker or Church know. Sarge said as he left the room. Somewhere else in Junker Town, Caboose finally woke up as he seemed to be inside of a room with Bridget looking him in the eyes. He He would have moved but his body ached too much to even lift himself up. His eyes shifted throughout the room as he looked for Tucker. "Where's our sword friend?" Caboose asked. Bridget reassured him. "He went back to the ship. He said McCree should be able to get in, no problem," she said. Caboose closed his eyes. "Why are you here then?" he asked. Bridget sighed. "I told the Queen I'd be able to heal you guys," she answered. "You guys?" Caboose asked again. "You guys?" The familiar voice of Caboose's best friend was heard. Church was back in his original form. Chapter 17. Escaping Old Friends. Church's chambers. The room the three heroes found themselves in was a whole lot cleaner than the outside, but only by a little. The walls were a cold steel gray, with one wall of the room being a window to the outside world. The room had one large bed in the back of the room made from the back of a large pickup truck. The soft part of the bed was made out of some fur of a large animal. The chambers featured a large shelf of offerings, mostly alcohol, some jewelry where his buzzaxe and sword laid. Church himself was resting in his bath, which was neatly made of stone and cement. Caboose looked at Church and was wondering just how Church went back to normal, especially under these circumstances. Church looked at Caboose while in his bandaged underwear and mummified and sat there soaking in the water. "So how long have you been, you?" Caboose asked. Church looked at Caboose. "Since the fight ended yesterday. After you were brought here, the other guy took a break from that, he had his fill of blood for now." Church explained. "Now what are you guys doing here?" Church asked. "We came to bring you back to the Overwatch base. We can still get you out if we just get you tea," Bridget answered. Church got up and walked away towards the window. "This place is somewhat of a home. All the people here are either deserving, with the exceptions of those who just adapt to survive." Somewhere in the midst of all this chaos and destruction, I felt peaceful for a moment, Church said. Caboose looked at Church and was confused. "Church, you're not coming?" Caboose asked. Church looked down. "Caboose, how many times have I nearly caused your death? What happens if you get hurt because of me?" "I'm sorry, but I'm staying," he said as he made his way past the shelf of alcohol. Bridget was about to say something, but Caboose placed a hand on her shoulder and shook his head. "I understand, Church," Caboose said as he walked closer to the liquor shelf himself. "Caboose, I can't tell you how sorry I am for this. If I could I would, but this curse is something that I must carry." "Aloe," Church said as he was interrupted by one of the glass bottles hitting the back of his head. Caboose picked Church up and put him in a knapsack made out of Church's sheets on the bed. Bridget looked at him confused and somewhat disappointed. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Being selfish," Caboose answered honestly. "I just got him back, I can't lose him again," he said. Bridget lowered her head, then looked around the room. "Well, if we're leaving this place, we'd better be smart about it. Here, put this on," she said as she handed him some brown leathered apocalypse gear. Caboose looked at the clothes, then smiled at Bridget. "Thank you," he said. "Don't mention it," Bridget smiled back at him. Minutes later. "McCree, be prepared, me and Caboose have church," Bridget said into her comm link. "I hear ya, Tucker, Mercy and I are heading towards the gate right now," McCree said as the five of them were about to rendezvous spot. Unfortunately, there were two groups watching Caboose and Bridget, and one group watching McCree and the rest of the team. Just outside the gate to Junker Town. The regroup had finally come as they all met directly outside. "Alright, Lena is watching the ship so we can get out of here in 5. "Where's Church?" asked Tucker. Suddenly the knapsack began to move. "He's sleeping," Caboose said as he punched the bag. Mercy looked at the tall tank. "You kidnapped him?" she asked. "Well, technically, yes," Bridget answered. "Hold on now, Hoss. He ain't coming willingly," McCree asked. Caboose looked at the sky for a moment to avoid eye contact. "No, not actually," Caboose said. Tucker stopped this quickly. "Who cares, I'm not leaving my brother here," he said. McCree grabbed Tucker by the shoulder. "We don't do that here," McCree said straight to his face. Tucker and McCree growled in each other's face until a rolled up stack of TNT came barreling towards them. Forced, the two backed up and looked where it came from. McCree froze as he saw an old friend of his. "Ash, didn't expect to find you here," he said to the newcomer. Ash was accompanied by 6 other Deadlock gang members including B.O.B., all holding Western-era weapons. Ash herself was dresser in all black with her gold-accented level-action rifle. I'm on business. Ya see, money is a little tight and your head catches for $60 million. So you do the math. She said. Old friend. Tucker asked. The name's Ash. I guess you could say that me and McCree started the Deadlock gang together when we were young. She answered. Tucker had one hand on his sword as he was about to unholster his gun and unsheath his sword. Caboose saved him with a heads up. Tucker, goose. Caboose shouted. Tucker, knowing Caboose, ducked down to avoid a large hook. Tucker traced the chain back to its owner to find it was that of the heavy man with the pig gas mask and his scrawny pal. Tucker only knew one way how to respond. Just great. He said as he backed into McCree. Old friends. McCree asked jokingly. No, we met the other day. Tucker answered. That's right. No one man handles me or Rhodey and gets away with it. Junkrat shouted as Tucker held his sword with one hand. Tucker and McCree shared a look with one another. Get to the ship, we'll hold them off. McCree said as he spun the rounds of his revolver. Angela, who was known to be as close to an angel, refused. Not going to happen, she said as she stood next to Tucker. We're all in hell together. She said. Bridget and Caboose stood in front of McCree. You want to hurt my friends, you're gonna have to tear through me, you sons of, Caboose cried out as a shot in the air. The Queen has known about her champion disappearing and sent off some of her royal guardsmen to search for him. So about 10 armed guardsmen came strolling out as they had the forces of the army of Junkertown on their side. So Caboose held onto the bag tightly when one of them, holding a large knife wearing a reindeer skull helmet, aimed it at Caboose's general direction. The bigger version of Junkrat called him out. Oi, big guy, what's in the bag? He asked. Caboose gripped the bag even tighter. Who wants to know? He asked in a suspicious tone. The larger rat of a man smiled through his wicked teeth. Well, seeing as that's a lot of supplies and we haven't checked your luggage yet, makes sense that we'll have to check it for an overhaul of goods. Caboose, lugging it over his shoulder, he let it slide behind him and cracked his knuckles. The man saw Caboose's strength was something to marvel, knew the fight would be messy. But he didn't know who'd win, but we'll be able to overlook this for some. The disgusting man licked his front teeth. Feminine entertainment. Upon hearing this, everyone became disgusted. Caboose took one step forward to protest, but that's when the bag moved and out came their agitated cargo. Caboose. What the hell? I can't believe you did something like this. Church yelled as he was free of the bag. Caboose put his hands up as if Church was a dangerous animal. Church, I can explain. Caboose was about to say until Church continued his rant for the better. No, you listen, this is the one order I'm happy you disobeyed. Church continued. You're not mad? Caboose asked. Church kept shouting in his angered tone. Never have I ever been prouder of you all until this moment. I just got you idiots, do you think I wanna lose you? He asked. As their conversation continued, Ash received an alert on her phone showing the following. Wanted. Alive, reward 4 billion, name, Leonard Leroy Church. Sure enough, the face of the man in the wanted picture was that of the man in front of everyone. The hog and the rat both looked at the wanted poster to see that it was the man that they had kidnapped, and the man in front of them were one and the same. The last group had one man pull out a stack of wanted posters to pull up the one with Church's face and amount. All of them grew wicked grins and stared at Church. Church looked around to see this and became cautious. What's up with them? He asked. The wanted poster from the group of junkers flew into Tucker's hand and he grew wide-eyed, open-mouthed. Well, Church, you're really popular. Who'd you piss off? Tucker asked. Don't know. Don't care. Church said as he closed his eyes with a smug grin. Out of curiosity, why do you ask? Church asked. Tucker then presented him with the poster. Church grew wide-eyed and dropped the picture. Damn, I'm fucked. Church stated. Tucker then placed a hand on his shoulder. Tucker had stripped of his shirt. Don't worry, we just got our favorite asshole, we ain't letting you go. He said as held his samurai sword with two hands facing Junkrat and Roadhog. Caboose cracked his knuckles and faced Ash and Bob as well as the rest of the Deadlock gang. Come on Church, we got this. Caboose added. Ash smirked. Oh come on now, just hand him over, and everything will be fine. She said. Forget that noise, we stole him first. Fair and square, give him up. Junkrat said. Oi, he's on our turf, now give him up or we'll him bleed out of y'all all. The nastiest junker said. Tucker grabbed Church's shoulder, who was still looking to the floor. "Church, you okay?" he asked. Church just stood there as he dropped the poster and held the mask in his hands. "Krieg is telling me something," Church answered. "What?" "Now is not the time to listen to Psycho," Tucker said as he backed up into Church and Caboose. Church held the mask in his hand. "So much deserving, so much guilty, so much blood," Church said as he stared at his mask. Caboose knew what Church meant. "Church." He paused for a moment, to receive his buddy's hesitant attention. "No matter what you do, you're always my best friend. Now, do what you gotta do," Caboose said with a confirming look. Church took a deep breath, and said a chant to release all the necessary power. "When all is lost, undo this lock, and send me forth on a moonlit walk. ... Release the beast," Church finished. "Party Party Party" by Andrew W.K. "I ain't censoring this fight." As he finished the chant, Tucker and Caboose backed away as he placed the mask. Sure enough, Junkrat remembered the mask, and out of instinct fired his grenades as Roadhog shot his junk shells at Church. Ash and her posse fired all their rounds of Western era weapons and BOB's arm cannons in the same directions. Finally, the most deserving group shot junk-made rifles, pistols, and shotguns as they seemingly killed the man. One of the deserving junkers from the large group smiled. "Hey, I don't want to jinx it, but I think we nailed Hayuk." He started until a buzzaxe thrown as his throat left him decapitated. Soon the beast came leaping at them. "Ha ha. It's a baptism of blood," the monster cried out with blood joy. He wasted no time as he ripped out one of their throats, immediately spinning around to ram through some other junker's throat. He then placed his hands on someone's skull and jammed his thumbs through the eye holes, ripping the skull apart as the body was split down the middle. Another fired the shotgun at the crazed maniac, but his chest was open as the monster ripped it wider, splitting the ribcage apart as he used those ribs as daggers for his next victims. The large rat of a man ran to the pole. "We need reinforcements," he pleaded. "Send out the hunters," he demanded. 4 large trucks drove through the large gate as the first truck fired a harpoon through the monster's arm. The harpooner cheered. "Got him. He's a live one." In an attempt to drive off, the truck halted as the monster tore the stick out and yanked on the cable attached, landing on its back, crushing the 2 on the back. The 2 in the front left alive for now. The next truck attempted to run him over as it did, and the junkers inside the driver and passenger seat cheered. Until they heard a noise from underneath. "You hear that?" the driver asked, but before the passenger could answer, he was met with a large hand grabbing his intestines and tearing through the metal floor. Soon the windows were splattered with blood as the driver crashed into a broken-down van. One of the passengers in the back went flying off the cliff with the force, while the other smashed straight into the side of the broken-down van, dead on impact. The other truck driver yelled at his crew, "Light him up! Light him up!" he demanded as his team hopped onto the 50 calories machine gun and fired at the crashed truck. After being punctured with only a few seconds, the truck exploded as they continued to fire. The driver stopped so they could continue to fire. "Don't let up," he said as he tried to look for a body. He did see part of the car moving but realized too late it was the car door as he and his passenger next to him lost their heads while the back passengers lost their bottom halves as flaming car door sliced through them. The last truck went head-on with the now flaming monster as the 2 from earlier witnessed what came next to their fate. They fired their rifles but to only ensure their demise. As the monster finished with the last truck, he charged toward the last 2 as one of the hunters cried out, "They expected us, they expected all of us. Dear Lord, no," he screamed. The rat man called for another force. "Send out the brute squad," he demanded. 30 or so melee-armed junkers rushed out to kill the beast that rampaged through everyone. Caboose shouted toward Church, who was now Krieg. "Krieg, catch!" Caboose shouted as he threw Krieg the same broadsword Caboose used in the arena. He then charged the rest of the brute squad like they were weeds in the field, waiting to be cut down. The commander saw body parts fly with ease. "Holy shit bro, this is what we get for being brutes. Glurarg," he said before being pierced by the broadsword himself. The rat tried for another team. "Send out the scrap collectors." He tried. He then heard the voice from the other side of the intercom. "They fucked off after they saw the throat ripped out." The female voice shouted back. "Crop," the rat shouted. Tucker then looked at Mercy. "It's kind of ironic, I think," he said. "What could be ironic?" Mercy asked. That within church there is a war inside, but he's perfect for war. Tucker said, and war in German is Krieg, the rat man said, as the demon walked towards him. Back with the conversation, Mercy questioned Tucker's logic. I don't think that's too ironic, just coincidental. She said. Meh, worth a guess. Tucker said. Ash knew her gang would be killed if they got involved. Deadlock, fall back. I got this one, she shouted as she reloaded her rifle. Her and Bob stood their ground as she took aim and shot at the back of the monster's head. Krieg lunged forward as he felt the force of the bullet. Before he could charge the sniper, he was met with the charging force of Bob as he was uppercutted into the air. The airborne beast was shot by Bob in Ash as their bullets impacted his skin for 5 seconds. Bob then picked up Krieg in midair by the throat and proceeded to choke him out with his right arm and punch his face with the left. Punch after 10 metal fists rammed there into Krieg's rough skin. Soon Bob learned that this man was not like the others. Bob lost his grip as Krieg threw Bob's arm off his throat and held the middle of Bob's torso with both arms. With a wicked smile, Krieg looked at the burly Omnic butler. Come on, shoot me. Kill me. Give me a hug. Krieg demanded as a crushing sound was heard and Bob was split in two by the force of the hug. The monster threw part of the Omnic against a wall past a bridge. Ash saw the beast creep his way to Bob but intervened as she fired her 12 bullets one by one into the separate parts of Krieg's body. As she neared him, she shot the last 2 into his face as he grabbed her rifle. His head was knocked up as the bullets made their home. As Ash felt herself ease up, her gun was being raised by the man she shot at. Krieg's face lit up with anger as his eyes seemed even more red and bloodshot, but he lifted his mask for a moment as he showed his lips chewing on something. One of the bullets that landed into his head was now in between his top and bottom teeth as he spat out the bullet. He placed his mask back on as he pulled out the last bullet from his skull, slowing. The bronze piece came out with red liquor surrounding it. As the last bullet made it out, he snatched the gun from Ash as he shattered the rifle against his knee. She pulled out her sawed-off double barrel but knew that'd do nothing to the hulking 7 feet 1 inch berserker in front of her. As Krieg looked into her eyes, he saw something through the reflection of it. He threw himself over her to protect her from the projectile that exploded on his back. He spun around, tossing her to the side. To Junkrat fired the grenade. Rhodey, now. Junkrat yelled as his pal Roadhog hooked Krieg's neck with the monster's back towards him. The chain landed over the bridge as the screws dug into his neck. Krieg could handle that pain, but suddenly a ripped tire came spinning towards his backside. The explosion launched him forward, losing his grip on the chain as Roadhog tugged as hard as he could. Krieg's body went sailing through the air and his speed sent his neck running towards the bridge as a loud crack was heard. Krieg's neck was crushed. Oh, we needed him alive. Junkrat realized. Yeah, good riddance, Roadhog said, as they turned to the others. Soon the lifeless body of Krieg twitched as it swung in the breeze, hanging. As they neared the group, Junkrat immediately felt a tight object around his neck as he was pulled back. When he managed to see what exactly pulled him, he was close-lined by the strongest arm he felt in a long time. Roadhog looked back to see the man he killed walked among them. Stunned, he stood there with his gun hanging, aimed at the maniac. As his stunned moment passed, he fired at the psycho, junk-cutting flesh as the man charged the hog. Nothing stopped him now. Roadhog clenched his right hand as he prepared to punch the person who beat Junkrat. Krieg also prepared for the punch as he clenched his right fist as well. The two came speeding together as the high impact was about to collide. When the fist met, Roadhog's elbow came out as the fist split bones. Now he was at Krieg's mercy as he held the hook, ready to deliver his vengeance upon him. But paused as he looked at the people around, then to the pig's face. Krieg dropped the hook as he no longer felt that itch to kill this man. He instead extended out a hand as the violence came to a nearby end. But the rat from earlier called for one more trick. The sun was blocked out as they all saw the wrecking ball now landed near them. The rat came out filled with pride. You won't be standing here much longer, monster. Wrecking ball is here for a rematch, he said as the ball stayed in one place. Go on, do something, he demanded from the ball. The ball turned to the rat as he extended out his machine gun barrels at him. What are you doing? Him, not me, the rat man hoped. The wrecking ball turned to Krieg and said in a monotone voice, he's all yours, he said as he rolled over to the winning side. Now Krieg shifted his gaze to the rat as he placed his hand on his throat. This one, we can kill. Church said from inside. No. No, 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 no. Please no. Gawk. The rat man cried as Krieg ripped him to pieces, drenching the sands of Australia with this pathetic excuse of person's blood. As he walked back, pleased with his work, Church was once again allowed to come back. The closer he got to the group, the smaller of a person he became as he fell in front of them. Church removed the mask and looked at Tucker. Did we win? He asked. Yeah, let's go home. Tucker said. Tucker said as Mercy lifted Church up and covered him with the fur from the blanket. Ash tended to Bob as he was still alive, just barely functioning. Caboose went next to her. He put out his large hand as Ash looked behind in sadness and anger as she nearly growled. But the hand was taken by Bob as he grabbed Caboose and was positioned on Caboose's back. Like C-3PO, Caboose picked his bottom part up. Ash followed both of them. Bridget followed behind Caboose to watch over Ash. Tucker grabbed one side of the pig man as he lifted him to his feet. Come on bud, don't make me do all the work here. Tucker said to McCree. McCree still had his gun fixed on Junkrat. I'm watching this one. He said. Tucker looked at McCree. Alright, after that give Clint Eastwood all his looks back. Sarge makes it look good, you killed it. He said. Now they all make it back to the ship where Tracer waits to fly them back to Overwatch. Only to discover they are about to receive a new visitor. This is the end of part 8 of this What If. I hope you guys like it. Don't forget to leave a comment down